And hello and welcome back to another edition of the Baseball Talk Radio Show. I'm Gary Mack.
And Rich Baxter over here. How you doing, Gary?
I'm doing good, Rich, and happy Halloween to you and to all our listeners out there.
Happy Halloween. If you see some spiders coming onto your screen, if you're watching a YouTube video, it's not anything that's to be alarmed about, but they're probably real.
Yeah, there's a good chance of that, Rich.
Yeah.
Well, we have made it to a complete season, if you will, of Major League Baseball. The 2020 season has reached its conclusion with the Los Angeles Dodgers winning the World Series. And as usual, I was wrong. I picked the Tampa Bay Rays to win. But the Dodgers persevere.
Yeah, it's amazing that the Dodgers have not won since 1988. I started thinking to myself, man, that was a lot of presidents ago. 1988. I was trying to remember who the president was that many years ago. And of course, the Dodgers have had huge payrolls over the years. And great players to boot, but I found it hard to believe that they did not win a World Series going back since 1988.
Yeah. And they were on the list as one of the longest not to have won in between the wins, but they did it with timely hitting and some terrific relief pitching. And the Rays, they just didn't hit it all during the series. And of course, Kevin Cash, the manager, pulled out Blake Snell, and everybody will be questioning that move from here until the infinitum. In the sixth game, why he pulled him out with, I think it was 79 pitches or something along that line, but to take him out at that point when he was pitching brilliantly. And then, of course, we know what happens. They lost the lead and they lost the series. But they didn't hit at all at Tampa Bay like they were hitting in the previous series. And kudos to the Dodgers for, they had a revolving door of relief pitches, kept moving them in and out, and it worked.
Yeah, Blake Snell doing his best. And as you said, game 6, there was timely hitting that the Tampa Rays needed. They couldn't come up with it. So what can you say? They gave it a good run. There's always going to be a loser. Did we really expect them to beat the Dodgers? Probably not. But as you were rooting for the Rays, so was I. Underdog. Of course, they faced the Phillies in 2008 as World Series opponents, and just had a tremendous support for them because the payroll was so much lower than the Dodgers, probably about a quarter of the payroll there, and it was more of a Cinderella type of story.
And they have a habit of they have a fantastic minor league system, and they just keep getting these guys. I think they need a little bit more pitching. I think the pitching depth, and of course, like we said, the lack of hitting. But this was really an endurance test this year, and I think they may have run out of gas as far as offensively, and the pitching staff, I don't think was as deep as the Dodgers, and that ended up being really the difference in the whole series. But an interesting series, wasn't the most exciting. I know you've got a little story about that, about the TV ratings.
Yeah, the World Series TV ratings among one of the worst that has ever been seen by us, the watchers out there. TV World Series ratings dropping an average of 32% below the previous low. So you're at the low, and then you're going to go 32% below that. That's a lot.
Wow.
6 games on Fox average a 5.2 rating, a 12 share, and 9.785 million viewers. So that's for the average rating over 6 games. Previous low was 7.6 rating with a 12 share and 12.660 million viewers for the San Francisco Giants 4 game sweep over the Detroit Tigers in 2012. So, yeah, Gary, huge drop in ratings. And of course, it kind of mirrors the basketball drop in ratings as well. This article that you're seeing, if you're watching our YouTube video here, hopefully you're seeing it, categorizes the basketball series that was disastrous as far as ratings for them. And now MLB follows suit.
And you know what's interesting too is that there was a big market team in there. Uh, and you would think that the Los Angeles market would at least be able to carry it up to the previous low. But I guess people are sick out and tired of everything out there as well, and they do have the nicer weather, so maybe people are out doing things and didn't want to be bothered. But you only have to wonder because it was in a time frame of a regular World Series as of late. So, but who knows? It could be people just got coronavirus fever and want to get out of the house, and a lot of them are mad at sports for what we've talked about this in the past, getting too political, and maybe people were ticked off as that as well. And maybe because none of the games were in LA, people lost some of the interest.
Yeah.
Um,
The back and forth, coast to coast type of atmosphere was
right.
not there. You had the COVID, as you said, the election, Halloween,
Hmm.
that could
Yeah,
have
lots
played
of things. Yeah, yeah,
there's a ton of things, but we'll see, in 21 what happens with sports. We've seen a big drop in viewing in sports. Now, if you think a lot of people are home, you would think would be the opposite of that. And people were jonesing for sports back in March, April, and May, of course, when everything was shut down.
right.
But before we move on from the World Series story, I just wanted to bring on to our YouTube video watchers. Of course, we are a podcast, but I got some good feedback from one of our listeners and watchers on YouTube. I'm going to try to make it a little more visually exciting for you guys as well. The World Series champ swag, the hats in general, are out. I kind of like the looks of these hats, Gary.
The champs hats. Yeah,
Yeah, the logo on the side there is very
yeah,
nice.
yeah.
They got a dozen of them or more. Look at this one here.
Gee, look at this.
World Series champs and the LA Lakers. How about that one?
Yeah,
Half
yeah,
purple, half blue. This is particularly nice too. It's got the trophy on it with
yeah,
LA
yeah,
World Series champs there. A lot of swag, a lot of merchandise
yeah.
follows a World Series win, of course. And LA brings it home for 2 professional sports teams this year. So kudos to them for that.
Yeah, and what's that's a good point you make there, Rich. Whoever won this World Series would have been the second one to win, as Tampa Bay took home the hockey Stanley Cup. So we
Yeah.
could have had two major sports in two cities. Either one winning would have had two titles for the year. So it happened to be LA. They got it, and the Lakers won the NBA championship. But interesting. interesting turn of events. And you mentioned 2021, Rich, and are we even going to have a season again? Who knows? I hope they're going to take this time and be better prepared, that if they decide to go into spring training in February and go into a bubble type of situation, that we have games starting in April, if that's the case. Um, hopefully we'll have a vaccine by then, and that'll make a world of difference. But they say this thing's going to continue, so who knows? But baseball's moving ahead and planning as if it's nothing. Teams are making moves. The White Sox and the Tigers hired managers. AJ Hinch, the former Houston Astro manager, was hired as the Detroit Tigers manager today.
They will hide all the trash cans in the dugouts now in Detroit. They're banned from the dugout.
And Tony La Russa, in a shocker, was named the White Sox manager. And it's a shock because Tony La Russa is
100 years
76.
old.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he doesn't look it.
Yeah, nobody hasn't managed in a decade either. So yeah, I don't know. It's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens, and he's taking over a team that made it to the playoffs this year. So there's going to be some pressure on him to do some good there. But
Yeah.
gee, I don't know. I'm not sure.
One thing is for sure, when you're a younger person, a fan of the game, I'm talking, 8 years old to maybe 15, you see these older guys come out to the mound, the managers. You don't know their history, of course, in the game. Think back to our days. We had Yogi Berra seemed to be with the game forever. A lot of other guys. Tommy Lasorda was with the game forever before he finally retired. A few others over the years. But I think it's great. I don't like to see the world turned over to the younger crowd, so to speak, right away. Let some of these guys still work. They're still capable of doing the job. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see.
It's just the can he relate to the younger players? And as I said, he's been out of the game 10 years. That is a long, long time to be out before, and then try to come back. So we will see. But something we didn't talk about before, but I just noticed that people are teams. As I said, teams are making moves already. The White Sox declined options on Edwin and Gio. I guess that's. Let me see if the story comes up here. And Corey Kluber was declined and did not get an option from the Texas Rangers. So the White Sox was Edwin Encarnacion and Gio Gonzalez were not picked up by them. They did not pick up their options. So we're seeing teams already starting to make some sort of moves, and mostly money moves, Rich. They're not picking up the big contracts. The Mets did not pick up the option on 3 of their players. And for those that don't know, I'm a Met fan, and Rich is a Philly fan.
Mm-hmm.
Those are our main teams. But
the pain that we suffer.
Yes, we
because
do.
of it.
Well, we're hoping not to skip. I know I'm skipping around a little bit, but the Mets sale was approved today by the Major League owners. So we have a new owner, $14 billion worth of owner, in Steve Cohen. Hopefully he'll bring joy back to Metsville and wash out the bad taste that the Wilpons had left, and we'll get some players here. But yeah, teams are operating as if normal, and they have to. They have to plan on these things and be prepared for as if spring training will take place in February and the year's going to start on time.
That sounds good. Optimism burning in New York, especially Mets fans. And getting back to LaRusso, I'll put him up on the screen for our YouTube watchers. Now, this is him about 9 years ago with the St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series 2011. And you can see right over here, this color here, that's just for men. So if he wasn't using just for men, he would look, 70 years old. But he knows how to hide it well. So I'm sure Tony will be sporting
Only
that
his
brown hair in 21.
only his hairdresser knows for sure.
That's for sure. But yeah, as you said, Gary, the scuttlebutt around the MLB is that a lot of these players are not going to get their contracts. As you brought up, ownership does not know whether they're going to be able to sell tickets in 21. We're still very much in this COVID right now, although it's promised that within a month or so, we may have some interesting developments on a vaccine, hopefully. And that would put this to an end. But we have the Cubs declined left-hander John Lester, $25 million contract option there in Chicago. So that was really no big surprise. That's a huge number if
Yeah.
you're not going to make the revenue. And what I think MLB lost about $3 billion. They said this past
Something like
season.
that. And that doesn't mean that these teams are not going to sign these guys back. There's a good chance they just don't want to sign them at that rate at this age now, and this is a way that they can let them go out and be free agents if they wish, or they can sign them back on a cheaper deal. David Robertson, I think, the relief pitcher was he with the Phillies? I think,
He
I
was with the
believe,
Phillies.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they declined him as well. So, um, he had a lot of injuries, so he's got something to prove. But a lot of these guys will probably. The Rangers would like to sign Kluber, but they don't want to pay him that kind of money. So they'll probably offer him something lower or let him test free agency and see how it goes. He had some injuries this year as well, didn't have a great year. Tough year for pitchers, though, to really gauge uh, a pitcher. He had Tommy John surgery, I think. Was it Kluber or somebody else? I'll get somebody else in my head. But not this past year, the year before. So uh, it's going to be an interesting offseason. There's going to be a lot of big names, but consider this: a lot of the names that we're hearing already, Kluber, Lester, are guys at a 35, 36 too. So do they have anything left in the tank is the next question. And that's another reason why they don't want to pay him 20 million if they don't feel like there's much left in the tank. Maybe they'll pay him 5 million or something if they want to come back, on incentive laden contracts, then that's what they'll do. But it's gonna this may be, every year we say it's gonna be a fascinating off season because of the pandemic and corona, and we don't know what's gonna happen next year. This
Mhm.
could be an even one of the top fascinating winter meetings that we're going to see. And plus, they're going to be remote. So the owners' meetings, I think, are the 7th. I had the date. I can't locate it now. A couple of weeks, the owners' meetings will be taking place. And then in December is the usual winter meetings. And I believe they were going to be in Dallas, but now they're just going to do them remotely. who knows though? What happens if we get a vaccine in November and it's working, and maybe they'll have it in person, the meetings. But my guess is they'll be, they've got them scheduled as remotely now, so they'll probably stick to that. But that will be a fascinating week to see, and this whole off season to see who signs where. Will the Mets make a move because they have a new owner? Will the Yankees because they fell short this year? What about the Red Sox? Who, by the
Chicago.
way, are talking to their previous manager, Alex Cora, which is a good move on their part, I think. Who was his suspension is up, and they're thinking of bringing him back. So um, it's going to be an interesting offseason for baseball, Rich.
Yeah, you got the Braves, Chicago in consideration. A lot of these teams with some big names, Cole Hamels, will he come back for 21? And as you said, Gary, what kind of pay are they going to get? Is it going to be a regular season? Nobody knows yet. I imagine as time goes on, more plans will be made for the 21 season. Towards the end there, we had some fans in the stands, but now we understand, as we're getting the news every day, that the COVID situation seems to be picking up, possibly, and maybe things will go back the other way. You don't know. So it's going to be a waiting game for sure. Rest of the year, the Phillies still on the fence on signing JT Real Muto, but nobody's going to be handing out big contracts for 21, I don't think. So, unfortunately, these players are caught in the middle of it.
Yeah, and uh, we'll have to see. I think there's going to be a lot of 1 year deals. Even the probably a guy like Rio Muto and Bauer going to get a big deal, but after those two, I don't. Uh, who else is really that big a name that's going to want it? Now there's a story that Rio Muto likes it in Philadelphia, does not want to come to New York. He's not interested in coming to New York. So is that, what the Mets and the Yankees, do they pursue it or do they just let it drop?
Yeah. So all those things will play out this off season. At least it'll give us some entertainment to deal with in our long wait till 2021. The off season is well underway now. Uh, Only a couple days old, but it's going to be a few months before we start up again with baseball for sure. And moving on to another portion of the off season, of course, is the 2021 Hall of Fame ballot. And I just put up on the screen for our YouTube watchers as well as our podcast listeners out there. Some first ballot Hall of Famers this year. I'll go through a quick list here: Tim Hudson, Mark Burley, Torrey Hunter, Dan Harron, Barry Zito, Aramis Ramirez. Surprised to see this name on there. Shane Victorino as a Hall of Famer. Grady Sizemore, Alex Rios, AJ Burnett. I could almost see an AJ Burnett in there. A couple other big names: Rafael Soriano, Corey Hart, Michael Kadire, all first name ballot this year.
Well, none of them jump out to me as Hall of Famers in that crew, I don't think.
No, it's going to be a stretch to get anybody from there. But of course, we have the Schillings, the Clemens, the Bonds, Omar Vizquel, Scott Rowland, Billy Wagner still hanging in there, Gary Sheffield, Todd Helton, Manny Ramirez. So the steroid crowd is still hanging in there and still
Yeah,
eligible to make it.
and they're making strides. So don't be surprised if they don't pop up this year. Uh, Interesting that some of the guys on that list. Can you pop that list back up again?
Yeah, sure. I thought you were done with it here. Yeah, number one would be Kurt Schilling. He was at the top with 70% last year. Not enough to make it, but he was probably somebody that you'll see get in this year. Schilling there
I
with
There's a couple of guys there that amaze me. Scott Rowland, I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, he was a terrific third baseman, but I remember him being hurt so many times that I'd have to look up his looking at his numbers. Let's see. I guess he's got
he's
pretty
got
good.
7,398 at bats, um, 2,000 hits, 2,077.
Yeah.
Homers 316 with 1,287 RBIs, and yeah, as you said, 281 lifetime batting average. As you said, yeah, he was a good player, but the Hall isn't about good players. You got to be a great player to get into the Hall.
Right. And I think that I don't think he was that terrific. I mean, that great, a great player. But you know what, Rich? What he's got going in favor for him is that he's a third baseman, and there is a dearth of third basemen in the Baseball Hall of Fame. And in fact, read an article where they were trying to named a bunch of third basemen that they thought should go in, like a Bill Madlock or I can't even think of some of the other guys' names, but just got Chipper Jones in, who was predominantly a third baseman. Maybe that helps Scott Rowland this year. And the other guy that I'm always fascinating with that's still up there that people are even talking about it is Billy Wagner. I mean, dominant closer, yes, but he's the number 2 left-handed pitcher of all time in saves. John Franco is the leader in saves for left-handed pitchers, and it kind of strikes me as a little amazing that he's not even in the conversation, and yet Billy Wagner is there all the time, and their numbers are relatively similar. So I don't know where you go with that one. Doesn't seem exactly right to me to leave one out and not, but that's just me, and maybe I'm being a little prejudiced because it's a Met, but they both were Mets. So,
Yeah.
uh,
No, I
you
mean,
know,
I just brought up his page in Baseball Reference, Billy Wagner, and he's compared with Randy Myers, who is not in the Hall of Fame, um, Craig Kimbrell, and if he's a Hall of Famer, he hasn't uh, retired yet, I don't think. Jonathan Papelbon, he retired a year ago, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Now, I don't remember him actually declaring himself retired, but
mm-hmm.
that's the crowd. Dan Plesac, Randy Myers, he's compared with. Now, the only Hall of Famer he's compared with is Trevor Hoffman. So, yeah, I think he just falls short. He's like a Rowland. He was just
Mm-hmm.
about there. He had a lot of MLB service in 16 seasons. Rowland had 17. So they hung around. That's one of the hallmarks of making the Hall of Fame. You got to have about 16, 17 years
Right,
and hang around, put those
right.
numbers in. But yeah, I think two of those guys would be guys that I would consider really good players, but probably not
Not Hall of
Hall of
Famers.
Famers.
Yeah. Well, we'll see how that goes. We still have a couple of hangovers or holdovers, maybe a
And
hangover too
hangovers.
from last year with Derek Jeter and Larry Walker. Though they are considered Hall of Famers, I believe if you go to the website, they are listed as a Hall of Famer, and they are. Um, I would have had a private ceremony. I think if I was them, I don't know if their plaques are up or not, but I would have wanted my plaque up already. So just put it up. What's the difference? You can have them get it again, right? I mean, what's the
True.
big deal? They could be in the ceremony. But again, who knows if we're going to have a ceremony? What happens if there's another, they cancel a ceremony again this year? This could be the longest in waiting to be inducted in the history of mankind.
That's true. And
So
I just, getting back to Billy Wagner real quick, I just looked. In July, he's going to be 50 years old. Does that seem right?
Yes, it is, Rich.
That's amazing. I don't feel that old.
I just didn't when I wake up in the morning. But then again, he's got me by 17 years. So.
Yeah. All right. Well, we want to thank our listeners for listening to the podcast. And of course, the YouTube crowd. Maybe you don't listen to podcasts, but our show has always been sort of audio based. The YouTube is just a little extra that we throw on you. But I thought for fun, we would go and review some of our stats here, Gary, with the podcast. Let our listeners know who's tuning in and where they're coming from. 88% from the U.S. And we still have that 6% over in the United Kingdom. How you doing over there?
Hello, chaps.
Hello, old chap. Hit that ball. 1% in Ireland, Canada 1%, Japan less than 1%. But majority of our podcast listeners come through at Apple Podcasts. That's 75%. Anchor Direct, the website, anchor.fm/baseball talk radio show, has 4% there. Overcast with 3%, and then 18% on other. We have 88% male listeners, 12%. Hello, ladies, and thank you for listening.
Hello, ladies.
And here's our breakdown for our age groups here, courtesy of Spotify. They're giving us a breakdown. Most listeners are in our sort of age group, Gary, 35 to 60 plus. So thank you very much for listening to the show.
Yeah. Where do you find that to break it down? Where is that on the
That's on the anchor.fm main page.
Oh,
when
wow.
you sign in underneath.
I guess I never go down that far.
Yeah. 88% male listeners, 12%
Okay.
female. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all so much. And remember, if you'd like to be a part of the show, you can by going to that page at anchor.com/baseball talk and be a supporter of the show. Help us, keep the show fresh, come up with new ideas. And we're working on stuff. And it's just been a crazy year, Rich. And we've been inconsistent with shows as much as the baseball season's been inconsistent. So, but if you care to help us out, you can do that, or go to our Patreon page, patreon.com/baseball talk, and you can help us with any new equipment or whatever that we may need.
Yes,
That
indeed.
all we have no sponsors, we have no money coming in. This is all on our backs. Rich and I spend our own money to buy microphones and whatever we need, computers and whatnot. So if you'd like to help out with that, either one of those sites would be, very helpful to go to and leave a little bit of a donation.
Yeah, and if you go to google.com, can't remember that website URL, just type in Baseball Talk Radio Show and the word anchor into the Google search box, and you'll come up with our show right as the #1 listing. You can click on that, and there you'll find, like Gary said, you can support the show if you'd like. And, a lot of shows these days have a lot of supporters. I got to hand it to people out there that like to listen to their shows. They turn into supporters and support the show. A lot of professionally done thing is all advertising and things like that, but we don't rely on that. You can also listen to the show on Spotify right from a link from that anchor.fm page. That is our main site where the show is kept. So as Gary said, we'll be bringing you a lot more news in the off season. Where will some players end up? Results of meetings with the both the owners and the GMs will be meeting soon, so that'll be interesting. And as well as the players that are coming off a contract, going to sign somewhere for some amount of money. I guess they're all wondering themselves.
Yes, at this point, they probably are. They don't know where they're going to be. But as I said before, it should be an interesting offseason, Rich, and we'll be there to follow it.
Yes, and hopefully next season we'll be able to talk some ballpark food. We didn't get to there this past season, some of the other stories that we bring you as well. But thanks for listening to this show. Get out there and vote for Election Day. Happy Halloween, everyone. And we'll be seeing you in November with a couple shows as well. So take care, everyone, and please stay safe out there. Wash the hands, wear your masks, and socially distance.
And we'll see you next time on the Baseball Talk Radio Show.